Next, next segment here is something that I disagree with a lot of people on the right on, and I want to try to explain why I disagree on this one. It's kind of too late now, but I think it's still worth discussing because in the news I saw, and I went wild in my head. I went wild when I saw this headline because I knew the GOP was making a mistake or a conscious effort to hide things. Ketanji Brown Jackson, the nominee for the Supreme Court, is the most popular Supreme Court nominee in years. I was surprised. Even though I did not like the GOP strategy. And I want to talk about that. So I was a little bit heated when I saw that she was the most popular. And the country can view it how they want. But I said, who's the Mensa that thought portraying Ketanji Brown Jackson as a child prawn supporter was a good sell? She's got the highest approval since they started polling this in 2005. Forget about the discussion of the child prawn. There's not enough there to sell her as a danger based on that. I understand the concern, and I think it represents the loss of trust we have in our system. When you look what happened with the guy who committed suicide, and no one believes that he really did. When you look at what happened with him and Hillary and all these, Russiagate and all these other lies, I think people lose confidence. And they saw this and said, ooh, this matches some of these other things I've seen. Let's go after her like this. I think Josh Hawley was the number one dude on this one. And I like some of what he's done. I like a lot of what he's done and stood for. That was a mistake. This going after her for the child stuff was a big mistake. It made no sense. There was not enough there. She doesn't fit the profile. It's a tough sell, even if she is. I don't know what's in her head. 5 recent surveys, including one from Fox. The one from Fox had her at 56% approval, I believe. Did I put it in here? I might have forgot to put it in here, but the one from Fox had her, I think, the highest. So she was at 53% on the average of all these polls. So it's not just one poll, and polling isn't exactly right, but I think it might be accurate. 53% supported her with about 26 opposed. That's a plus 27 in net popularity. Audra, who's great on Twitter, we follow each other. She says, yeah, except the fact that she feels that these offender laws are unconstitutional. I think she wrote some papers on that from back in the day. And based on hatred and vengeance towards the offender. My question is, why doesn't that matter to anyone? I think it does, but the sell was too hard. She has an esteemed record. She's already been confirmed for lower positions. I think this was her 3rd or 4th time in front of the Senate for confirmation. No misconduct there's no misconduct at all. Even the sentencing wasn't misconduct. So if you had some type of misconduct or something, then I could see it. But a family woman with 2 kids, nobody's buying it. That was not the right route to go. It was such a bad chess move. I maybe I'm just a Fox Mulder from X-Files conspiracy theorist, but I wonder, I'm not saying anything definitive, but I wonder if it was done on purpose. It was a distraction. The whole child stuff was a distraction from where the focus would have been at. Critical theory does not poll well with people, and they didn't do enough to tie her to that. They were wasting too much time, Lindsey Graham and them, complaining about what happened to Kavanaugh. When you have Ketanji Brown Jackson about to go through the nomination hearing, and you waste time complaining about Kavanaugh, what it makes it look like is you don't have anything to ask her about. It makes it look like she's so squeaky clean that you're going back complaining about Kavanaugh, or you would use your time to expose her. So they didn't do that. It was a terrible, awful hearing for the Republicans. But I will challenge fellow citizens. I understand your concern, but that wasn't the win. That wasn't the win you thought it was. So I said, I don't know what's in her head. Maybe she is a child. Just the same with like somebody who's racist or not. I don't know what's in their head. Maybe they are. But selling her as a child prawn sympathizer is like selling Bill Gates beating Mike Tyson in a boxing match, to me at least. Like, she doesn't fit the profile. Doesn't mean she's not, but that's a tough sell. Like, if you can't be a salesperson and come to somebody's crib in your pajamas, you might have the best product in the world. People are going to slam the door on you. You don't have the presentation. That's politics. It was objectively terrible politics. I said it at the time. I'm not surprised that even with that child stuff, she's the most popular since 2005 when they started doing it. I was more curious about, she defended the Guantanamo prisoners, literally terrorists, and no one tested her principles in asking about J6. Would she defend them? Would she have defended them? Do they deserve defense? I'm not a legal expert, but going down that path would have made way more sense, because her answer on the sentencing actually made sense. I'm not an expert, but just as a layperson, it made sense to me, talking about the technology, and these cases are different. And then you look at the other judges, and 80% or whatever, it's not uncommon for them to do lesser sentences because of this. And then they kept drilling on it. And she was at the point where she's like, I answered this 100 times. That wasn't the way. The way was to get to her philosophy of critical theory and inconsistency, because she actually seemed principled on the Guantanamo prisoners. We still have a constitution, even with the terrorists. That's the same thing with J6. Even if these people, these radical, establishment Joe Biden leftists believe J6 people were insurrectionists, they still deserve a speedy trial and a defense, just like the Guantanamo prisoners. So I want to make sure that you're consistent there. I listened to most of the hearing. I didn't hear one question about it. Lindsey Graham was drilling her as if the defense of the Guantanamo prisoners was a bad thing. Lindsey Graham looking at that as a bad thing is the reason why J6 defenders are still in jail right now, some of them, because he's not principled. He doesn't care. It was terrible. So Lindsey Graham's off on that tangent. Then some are off on the Kavanaugh tangent. Then some of them are off on this child prawn tangent. And none of that is sticking anywhere. The only person who had the moment was Marsha Blackburn. And I think she could have done better too. Easy for me to say. I did a whole video on that. She's going to get confirmed. She never had to really, she was never tested to kind of expose her ideology. She's very elusive, very bright, gave just enough information, knew how to dodge the questions. These hearings are getting really almost pointless, because now every question you're like, what question can I ask that she will answer? Not just her, but anyone. They'll say, well, if this case gets in front of me, I can't answer it. Oh, it's from a case. Well, I've got to review the case. I mean, it's like, at some point, it's like, what can you answer? I don't blame them, because you're in an interview process. The more you speak, the more danger you're in. But let me know what you think. I thought it was a terrible approach.